The Canadian Premier League's trip to Kelowna, a success. Except for attacking players. No one could find the back of the net. It ends up in a goalless draw between Vancouver FC and Cavalry in what turned out to be a very entertaining match for your Tony Bet Match of the Week. This is a match night here on One Soccer. Happy Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to a couple of fathers in their own right. Jordan Wilson, Christian Jack.
And yourself.
I am Gareth Wheeler. We're going to break down the week that was in the Canadian Premier League, dig into Canada and their preparations for Copa America, the best and worst, and a little bit of Euro talk as well. Let's bring up the up-to-date Canadian Premier League table. Atletico Ottawa, despite dropping points, I mean, that gap closes, but still a 5-point cushion ahead of Pacific. Halifax Wanderers still searching for their first win of the season, bringing up the bottom of the table. And there you have it, by virtue of Vancouver's draw against Cavalry in Kelowna, British Columbia. They have third place to themselves to finish the match week 10 in the Canadian Premier League. It might be appropriate they play at the Apple Bowl, and for the 6,281 fans, a big attendance, really good to see, and an engaged fan base as well. But the final score is Apples. 0-0. It's the only really unfortunate thing.
Told you he wasn't done, didn't I?
You don't want it to sour the occasion, KJ, because it was a really watchable match of football.
It was a really enjoyable game of football. And, you know, I think that's what people will remember. You know, people can look at it and go, too bad they didn't get the goals. But, you know, how they made them feel, they won't forget it. You could see, you know, both teams wanting to win. And that's what you want in this moment. You want both teams to go out there and try to win the game. Give that wonderful fan base a show. They're going to go away from it with great memories. No, they didn't have a goal, but I'm sure some of them, well, majority of them would prefer 0-0 than having Cavalry score against them. So they'll take that. And you know what I loved about it too is just how many families were there. You could see the kids enjoying themselves as well. Not a great weather day, but in the end, the sun came out of the end and shined on the Canadian Premier League and all things Canadian footy.
There are different types of 0-0s, okay? Yeah. There's ones that are cagey, very defensive. I can't believe that it stayed goalless in this game. There were so many chances, some that were created by mistakes as well.
You can't believe it, Wheels. I can't believe it. There was definitely a goal in this game, but as KJ alluded to, there was excitement, right? There were chances. There were big plays. Caden Chung, whether it be Callum Irving, shots on target, where people needed to stand up big. So there was enough there for the fans, but just looking at the atmosphere today, you can see Kelowna is going to be a part of the CPL, I will assume.
All right, so who's more happy with the draw here today? Is it Vancouver or Cavalry?
I would say maybe the Cavs, because I think they're poor. And when you're poor and you can get a result and you can get a point, I think that says something about your squad, but also just where you're at. If you're Vancouver, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the CPL is so close. Every season it's that close. And when you play well and you have enough chances to go and win a game, you have to be hard done by when you don't get 3 points.
Yet 7 draws in 10 games now for Cavalry. That can't please Tommy Wilden Jr. We'll get KJ's take on that. Maybe, we'll see. Let's go back to Kelowna, and it's Oliver Platt standing by with our Gatorade Performer of the Match.
Caden, deadlocked in the end here in Kelowna. What did you make of your side's performance today?
Yeah, it was good. I thought we put pressure on early and we created some good chances from our press there. We have a good system in play this year that I think you guys have seen that, you know, when we press high, we get these opportunities. I think towards the middle of the first, we kind of set off a little bit and regrouped, and then we were able to press again for the last 15. And then the second half, it was a bit more of a transitional game. Tired legs, the surface is a bit heavy, but, you know, I thought we did well to defend the chances that Calgary created later on in the game, and we did well to keep the ball in their end towards the last 5-10 minutes. So I thought it was a good game for us.
You've had to chop and change a little bit at the back with some of the unavailability in recent weeks. Was a clean sheet a big priority for you today as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing coming out of the half was let's keep a clean sheet here. Let our attacking players kind of set us up for chances and goals if they came. But our job, you know, today was against a good Calgary side. Very physical in the air. You've seen Fraser, you know, in recent weeks being able to pick out crosses, but I thought we defended well, and yeah, very important clean sheet for us.
Just lastly, another BC community getting professional soccer. What did you make of the atmosphere and kind of the whole weekend here?
Yeah, it was amazing. We came in on Thursday. We had a little bit of a chance to explore the area and get to know the community a little bit better. We were out at schools and youth soccer games throughout the weekend. And, to see the turnout here, I really hope that we can expand this league and get more teams and crowds like this, that you see that they're hungry for football. So it's a great thing that we did today, and hats off to the CPL and the community here in Kelowna.
Thanks, Caden. Well done today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Brilliant. Love that from Caden Chung. It wasn't just about the game. It was about the build-up to the game as well and getting out involved in the community. And Caden Chung was excellent today, but he's quietly putting together a very good season. His obviously first year with Expansion Vancouver last year, injury ravaged. Like, he was affected by it so much, and he's been such an effective player. KJ, I'll come back to you with the question about whether Tommy Wheeldon Jr. will be happy with that draw today.
Yeah, I think he'll be happy with it. I don't think he'll be happy with the manner of the performance. Lots of factors around that, the field, the surface. But when you don't play at your best, you've got to make sure you don't lose. And there's no team better in the Canadian Premier League than them at doing that. I think they've lost one of their last 21 regular season games. Now, people could say, okay, yeah, but you lost when it mattered to Forge twice, at home in that first playoff final, and then obviously in the actual final. But for me, they're finding ways to consistently transition. We saw Akio get hurt again. They brought in Gutierrez. They brought in a few different players there, Diaz, and they all get that Cavalry mindset where it's like, let's make sure we're difficult to break down and difficult to beat. And I think it will serve them well when it comes to knockout football.
In 2022, the difference between 5th and 6th was 3 points. 2023 last season was 2 points. This is why I said Vancouver FC, it kind of feels like there should have been more in there, because they're that team that, we love them, but probably 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th. They're on that bubble. These are the games where you look back and say, we could have done a little bit more to get 3 points and just be a little bit ahead of the table and have that cushion going into these games.
Still, we are beyond the 1/3 mark into the season, and Cavalry are 6th. So it's one thing being difficult to beat, but we're the match winners that they've always had in their team. Different players need to stand up and really take things forward for Cavalry. Only lost the first game of the year.
And they were winning in that game, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Kelowna, and our very own Oliver Platt is standing by with Cavalry's Dan Klomp.
Dan, how do you assess that one in the end? Is it frustration not to take all 3 points, or okay with an away point?
To be fair, if you look at the first half, I don't think we deserve a point here. The first 50 minutes were not good. The second 50 minutes, I think we got back to ourselves a little bit. But then I think we shot ourselves in the foot like too many times, and I think we got lucky to keep a clean sheet here. But on the other hand, I think with Brooksy's chance, that was an unbelievable save by Irvin. We could also walk away with a win here. So yeah, we'll take it. But also kind of sad not to win it.
What would you say the team needs, just in terms of maybe turning some of those opportunities and possessions in the opposition half into more goals than we've seen so far this year?
Yeah, I don't know, Fraser's delivery has been unbelievable this year, so yeah, it's up to us to finish it now, and I've been on the end a couple times and also not, unfortunately not to score yet, but no, I think just keep doing the same thing. We train on it a lot. Fraser's delivery and our runs into the box are pretty good, I think. We always get on the end of it, but yeah, we have to convert those first contacts into goals now.
6,000 here today in Kelowna. It's been a different experience than I guess you guys are used to. What did you make of the atmosphere and the whole weekend?
Yeah, the atmosphere was unbelievable. I was not expecting this many people to show up. So yeah, that's very good, and I think all the guys also enjoyed going to the schools, engaging with the community here, and yeah, let's hope something nice comes out of this.
Thank you, Dan. Well done today.
Thank you.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
Well said by Dan Klomp. At the end of the day, years from now, the scoreline won't be spoken about. It'll be about what CPL on tour means and what kind of knock-on effect that it can have. There's so much debate and discussion amongst, Canadian soccer fans across this country about things that teams and leagues do right and things that they don't do and everything in between. But there is nothing that can replicate the live in-game experience of seeing a professional sport in the flesh and the emotions that come along with it, KJ. That's why, for me, whoever came up with this idea at the CPL headquarters, it's brilliant. It's exactly what we need more of. The in-community experiences in order to build this league moving forward.
Yeah, amen to that, mate. I agree completely with you. Look, we are you know, in this wonderful world, but it's a bubble, you know, within the Canadian soccer world, right? We can talk about it. We get the privilege of talking about the sport and commentating and covering these sport and these great players every single week. And it's truly a privilege and a blessing. But for a lot of these kids, a lot of these families, they've not had the opportunity to do this, right? Go get autographs and pictures and get that opportunity. And even more important, well, just as importantly, by the way, are the people who are going to put the money behind these things, Jordan. You know, you've got to be able to, it's one thing to go to a boardroom and try and sell an opportunity saying, we want to bring a league here, what can we do? You got to go show them.
Yes.
You know, the whole we'll build it and they will come and only works sometimes when you go there and show them what you can build.
That's what you got to do, right? And you said this, I remember even when I played for York United, and after games, it took so long to maybe come to you because you want to sign autographs. You want to go to the fans.
Yeah.
This is what you do, right? And I think this is a unique opportunity in the CPL because it's different than other leagues. You literally want to greet every young player, young kid, fans that come out, because without them, you're playing in a stadium with no one there. It's so intimate. So that relationship with fans and supporters that spend their money to come out and watch you play is essential.
Great to see so many, great to see so many kids and families choosing Father's Day to go there. It's wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Look, Kelowna, like a reasonable-sized city, like top 20 in this country or so. I mean, there's less than 300,000 people. There's big communities out there that need a big show like the Canadian Premier League to come to town, and hopefully there's facilities and the desire and the finances behind it to make that a reality as we move forward. Well done, Kelowna, the first star of the week. We'll address the rest of the week that was in the Canadian Premier League, including a late equalizer from Poku again for Forge. This is Match Night here on One Soccer.
Do we really have any choice at all?
Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Which do you choose?
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
How do you choose?
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good.
Volkswagen.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
In 5 years, we'll be doing this, but in Japan.
In 5 years, my family will be joining me.
I'll be living in the city.
Not living in the city.
In 5 years, I'll be king of the court.
I'll be playing for Canada.
I'll be playing for Canada.
In 5 years? Where won't I be in 5 years?
Here are the scores from match week 10 in the Canadian Premier League. Back and forth they went in Winnipeg. Pacific coming away with a 3-2 victory. York United go to our nation's capital and beat top of the table Atletico Ottawa 2-1. Brian Wright with the brace. Halifax still looking for win number 1. 90+2, Kwesi Poku scores in the 2-2 final. And the game that you just watched on One Soccer, the Tony Bet Match of the Week, Vancouver and Cavalry play to a goalless draw in Kelowna, British Columbia. And let's go back to the Apple Bowl in Kelowna, where our very own Oliver Platt is standing by. Hello, Ollie. No umbrella this time around. First, we'll speak about the game, and then we'll get to the spectacle that was. Vancouver were probably the better side in this game, but the best chance fell to Cavalry, and a great save by Callum Irving to preserve the goalless draw in this one. How did you see it from your vantage point?
Well, firstly, Wills, I did put the umbrella down in the pre-game, so you've just outed me for having it up for the entire time I wasn't on camera, but that's okay. As for the game, I think you got to put it into a bit of context as far as Cavalry are concerned. They're without Ali Musi, they're without Sergio Camargo, Bradley Camden, none of them here today due to fitness reasons, and then Charlie Trafford has to come off for half-time feeling unwell, so that's 4 big players that are missing for that team. That being said, I do think Vancouver had the better of it, and certainly with the happier sides coming off the pitch today, and you just feel with Diaz up front, Dyer, you always feel like there's a chance and a goal in them, and it was a little bit surprising, to be honest, to see Diaz come off with half an hour to go in a 0-0 game. But Vancouver, the better side on the day, and I think we'll be a bit more frustrated that they couldn't take 3 points, but overall happy with the performance.
Looking at the updated table, Vancouver sit 3rd, Cavalry down in 6th. I mean, the gap between 3rd and 6th is only 3 points, but do one of the teams in the respective standings stand out as a bigger surprise to you after 10 games of this season?
I just think with Cavalry, I know there's been kind of the narrative of, well, they start like this, they've done it a couple of times now, and then they get going. I do think there's frustration. Like, I just had a little conversation with Tommy Wilden Jr., talking to some of them before the game as well. They're not happy about the amount of draws. This isn't a team that's comfortable, saying, well, we've only lost 1 game and we're going to get going at some point or the other. So I think there's a bit more frustration there. Vancouver, like I think you guys predicted it, but before the season, this is going to be an improved side, and it is. We'll just see now how they kind of handle the summer, obviously with Diaz's loan coming up, and maybe adding a bit more depth to that starting 11, which looks pretty strong.
Ollie, you've been in Kelowna for a couple days now. What a great crowd today, despite less than ideal weather conditions. What's your takeaway from that perspective, what you've seen, the buzz, and how it all played out here today?
I just think it's been a big success for the CPL this weekend. Like, I think they took a risk, obviously, having this type of game, taking a home game away from a team and coming to a neutral venue. I give Rob Friend a lot of credit. I'm not saying he's the only one. I'm sure there are a lot of people at the CPL involved in putting this on, but I think he was someone who pushed for this. Obviously, this particular community being special to him, but just in general, the idea of getting out of the communities we're already in, seeing more of this country, and taking the Canadian Premier League around the country. So hopefully this means good things for Kelowna going forwards and what the future could be here in the CPL. But also I hope we see more of these types of matches all across the country, because this one's been a big success for sure.
Lastly, Ollie, it's great to see all the players still signing autographs in the background there. How many autographs have you signed today?
Yeah. I was offered a pen, but I humbly declined.
You asked someone else for their autograph. That's exactly how it played out. Great job, Ollie. Safe travels back. Thank you.
That's right. I was trying to get Renan Garcia.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thanks, guys.
Very much appreciated. Oliver Platt in Kelowna, British Columbia, at the Apple Bowl as well. By the way, just the way that the cameras were framed, the shot in the background, the scenics, all look spectacular.
Great day.
Like, this is kind of what we need more of. So well done to everyone involved there. Let's move on to elsewhere in the Canadian Premier League this weekend. And Halifax just cannot catch a break. Or sometimes you need to make your own luck. They end up playing to a 2-2 draw with Forge. Kwasi Poku scores 90+2. But still, despite having that late 2-1 lead, Halifax were never convincing for me watching this game. And it just seemed like a matter of time before Forge actually got back to level terms. What's your takeaway? Was this more of a testament to the way that Forge goes about their business, or there's still some real holes in the way that Halifax is playing right now?
Yeah, well, a few takeaways, to be honest. Forge were in control, leading 1-0, and when they get ahead, they don't usually give up much. I'll get to that in a second. Halifax showed a lot of character when they were down, but then just lost a lot of composure from me on the ball tactically. I don't know, when they had the same feeling for me watching them, and I can only imagine how hard it is not winning a game yet. But when they were winning in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago, and suddenly the clock is getting closer to 90, and I feel like they're playing as if like it's almost a whistle, when you know you've got added time, and they're trying to stop the clock and waste their time a little bit. And it almost, I think, impacted them negatively in Ottawa when it got to 10 minutes plus, and it did again here as well. Look, it's a very, very low-confident team, but I still think they've got chances in them. But boy, oh boy, that's a tough one to break to have go against them again. A bad break.
It's tough, and you have to be comfortable in chaos. It's easy to say, especially now I can sit here in my blazer with you guys and talk about, okay, when you're up 2-1, how to really roll up your sleeves. But that's what it takes. I think as leaders and personalities at that point to say, look, let's absorb pressure. When you're winning 2-1 against arguably one of the best teams in the CPL at home, I don't think it needs to be pretty. I think it just needs to be a bit more resolute. And you see them 91st minute, seems a bit panicked. Even watching the game is like there's times they're trying to transition and go forward. I think this is time to just really just be about your business. And what I mean by that is maybe dropping another person back, maybe going to the corner flag early. Like doing these little things that kind of just take this thing out of the game. And I think that's a learning curve, but we saw them last season as well. They could have done that a little bit better, but this is what's needed right now for Halifax to get those 3 points.
Yeah, look, I think they'll get on a run, and I think they're going to have a bit of an unbeaten run coming. I think they're playing okay. It's just very brittle with confidence. But Forge are the opposite. They keep finding ways. You know, it's remarkable to see that they just found a way. Now, you know, they got Ampama there, and now he comes on and plays well in the game. I was doing some research on this before this season. Do you know that they've led in 78 CPL games now? Do you know how many they've lost? Can you imagine? How many do you think you've lost? 78?
6, 7?
None.
0?
Never lost.
Wow.
They've never lost in the regular season in Canadian Premier League history after leading in a game, and they almost did it yesterday, and they found a way again. 69 wins and 9 draws. They've never lost a game from a winning position.
Super stat, courtesy of Christian Jack. Good news for Halifax. 2 goals scored by Massimo Ferrin. They need to get him
he was
going.
Excellent, yeah.
And that is a great sign for Halifax moving forward. Atletico Ottawa, top team in the table, at home against York United, actually lost 2-1. I mean, a significant result for Benjamin Mora, just his 2nd game in charge. Like, look, we all loved Martin Ash. The managerial change was made with the new ownership group, and all of a sudden you have Elijah Atakubi playing center back. Brian Wright continues to score goals. He's on 6 now, the most in the Canadian Premier League, with yet another brace. And all of a sudden, you're saying, you know what? Look out for York United, Jordan.
They're a team that love the highs, right? They love a moment. They love a chance to show that they're in it. But we talk about Diaz and Dyer as a dynamic duo. We have to start mentioning Ricci and Wright. They're figuring it out. They're figuring out how to play with each other and to get the most out of each other. And dare I say it, Wright is looking for that golden boot. Like, he is in rare form.
Scored twice last season.
Look, and he's
on fire.
He is a guy, when he's hot, he's hot. And right now he has that moment, KJ.
Yeah, I think he got 2 last year, but I think his XG was close to 9.
Yeah,
his chances were there. And now he's getting them, he's converting them. You know, it's funny how football works, right? First game of the season, York going to Ottawa, winning the game, couldn't get it out of the way and lose the game. Yesterday, Ottawa actually had a lot of the ball, probably should have got more out of it, didn't get anything out of it this time. But I like York's mentality without the ball. You mentioned it, they had Atakubi dropping in a back 3 a lot of the time. They were comfortable. They looked like they were happy suffering, which I think is a real big trait of a good team. He's already got them comfortable suffering. And mentally, if they can be ready to be suffering, then they can move on to the next level of success.
Mora, a winner in Malaysia. Could Mora now be a winner with the Maple Leaf? We will see an impressive start to his life at York United. Our good buddy Tony Marinaro he was on our show a couple weeks ago, does a great job with this podcast as well, reported over the weekend that Sean Rea is joining Atletico Ottawa, the former CF Montreal and Valor player. He's going to spend the rest of the season in our nation's capital. A couple of thoughts here. Like, obviously, Rea, a wonderful player. So it could be the case of the rich get richer, Jordan, or you could maybe ask yourself, well, where is this guy going to play?
Well, you know,
this Atletico Ottawa team.
Well, you know me well, Wheels. That's what I'm going to ask. Where is he slotting in? Where is he getting into this team, and where is he having an effect? Also, I made a joke in the beginning of the season with Atletico Ottawa that you play with 1 ball. They need about 2 or 3 with the guys that like to have it. You add Ray in the mix, you have to play with at least 2. Like, everyone wants to get on that ball, everyone wants to play. But what I will say, if he does go to Atletico Ottawa, I have full confidence in Carlos Gonzalez after what he's done with this offseason and how he has everyone on the same page and everyone really playing for that badge. So add it to the list. If he plays there, I don't mind him going against the Forges and the Cavalry. This just makes the league spicy, kid.
Yeah, I'll keep it really quick. I don't know anything about this yet officially, so I'll just say they struggled to get Bassett in the right position for some time. In fact, I think our debut show at the beginning of the year, we highlighted that. He's playing a bit more centrally, and I think he's been very good over the last few weeks. I'd just be interested to know, like you say, where do all these jigsaw pieces fit?
Very, very interesting. Check out Tony's The Sick podcast, the voice of Montreal sports. And finally, Pacific just keep on quietly going about their business, winning games, this time conceding twice, but still coming away with a 3-2 victory. It went from 2-0 to 2-2, and then a late own goal, unfortunately, by Sean Hundle after he opened his account earlier in the game. And Pacific win again, KJ.
Yeah, and
second place.
And Zadovic makes his debut as a professional goalkeeper and gets the win. That's what the Canadian Premier League is all about as well. A great story. You know, I'll say this about Pacific is that they struggle to score goals, and I know they got 3 here. But, you know, I don't think there's not many teams in the CPL who respond well to adversity as well as them. Throw whatever you want at them. And right now, both goalies unavailable. Suspensions, injuries, long-term, short-term, short bench. This is a tough group, Jordan.
I'd have to agree with you, KJ. When Ndam came out, this was, for me, the best pair with TMG and Ndam in the Canadian Premier League at that time for the center-back position. Next game, didn't skip a beat. Came on. The team was in sync. They worked even harder for the badge. And James Merriman has them all ticking in the right direction. I wouldn't want to play this team in the playoffs because they're resolute, they're hard to beat, they're defending well. If they could just have a striker or an attacking player to just play a bit above what they're doing right now, they'll be a top team.
Yates has been very good for them.
He has.
I mean, the biggest pleasant surprise of the Canadian Premier League, losing Didic and Aparicio, then they lose Ndam early, and this team still continues to produce. It shouldn't surprise. I mean, this is what Pacific does. They're just a very well-run club. Match week 11, we're looking ahead in the Canadian Premier League. Look at that, a midweek fixture. It's York United and Pacific on the eve of Copa America, Cavalry, Ottawa, for some Friday Night Football, and a little bit of a doubleheader on Sunday before you watch Match Night. It's Forge and Valor in Vancouver and Halifax, or Pacific, right here on One Soccer.
Hey, so Mom's thing's coming up. Should we book flights?
Let's do it.
We could go a day early.
Or the later one?
With over 500 flights daily, we have a flight for that.
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good.
Volkswagen.
Tony Bet. At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with Tony Bet.
CPL side, Cavalry FC.
Jesse Marsh is named as 26 ahead of Copa America, which begins this Thursday with Canada v Argentina. Ali Ahmed, Jason Russell-Rowe came into this team. Ike Ugbo decided to take a pass. He drops out, as is Junior Hoylett. He was in camp with Canada. He succumbed to injury in training over the course of the weekend, giving the opportunity for Joel Waterman to work his way back into the team. Waterman preferred over Zator and also Charles Andreas Brim, who are both with Canada and both played against the Netherlands in the friendlies last week. This is Oh Canada, Oh Baby, presented by CIBC. And let's hear from Jesse Marsh and the reasoning behind Ugbo's exclusion from the 26 that will be competing at this summer's tournament.
He decided for personal reasons to take a break. He just felt it was right for him. We had a long conversation. I respected his decision, and I understand where he's at. But it won't be the last that we see of Ike. I think he's ready to take a little bit of a break, get back into his club, and then keep pushing his career again. And we talked about the possibility for what September might look like.
Wheeler Wilson and KJ with you. So Ugbo is out. I mean, I don't know how significant of a move this is really. Obviously, scored 11 goals in the league championship. Clearly a player of quality. The 25-year-old still remains. But for Canada, it's just been a little bit underwhelming. Hasn't scored a goal in 13 appearances. Came up with an assist in the game against Trinidad and Tobago, which allowed him to qualify for Copa America. Actually started that game under Mauro Biello. What do you make of Ugbo not being with this team? Big loss, little loss, somewhat of a loss?
I don't think it's probably that big of a deal, really. I mean, every credit that he's done what he can to be there, and I'm sure he'll get another chance, right? But we have to understand we're in that peculiar time right now for players where he's got to figure out his own club form as well, in his own club. You know, in a couple of loan moves, both in the championship this year. Where does he go back? Where does he go? Does he start back in France again? Go back to England? And so he didn't play in a couple of the games under Marsh already. So it's hard to say that it's really the headliner of this squad with him not being in there. We wish him better. Hopefully everything's okay. He said personal reasons for a reason. But I do think the biggest takeaway looking at this and the entire thing is more the fact that when Hoylett was hurt today, they brought in Waterman, and maybe that brings a bit more balance to the team.
Well, the thought process behind Waterman, as we kind of move on from Ugbo, because I don't think he's anywhere near the lead story here, Waterman's an interesting one because it's not a like-for-like replacement for Hoylett, which tells me that they might need a little bit more insurance, maybe a different type of profile at center back if you need to play in another way. If you want to have a player that wants to play in the middle of a back three, then Waterman would be the guy. I'm not sure if any of the other defenders had that profile, other than him.
He would be the guy. I don't think Marsh would play in the three. I think potentially throughout the tournament you might want to tinker with something and change things up. So Waterman would be that guy.
Late in games, like...
Yeah, just maybe to clog things up. And if you want to play with a real five as opposed to a three, you put Waterman in there and you just want to have a defender that's versatile the way that he is. So I could see that happening. But yeah, the biggest question is, it was maybe Ugbo and Bear and Russell Rowe, maybe who's going to be that guy coming off the bench. With Ugbo gone, it's like, for me, it's just between those two, Bear and Russell Rowe.
Okay, so KJ, what is your biggest takeaway when you look at this 26? Like, we all hope that Canada can go into this tournament and compete with some very good sides. What is your takeaway when you look at this group as a collective?
I look at it at the players who are not going to play a lot and what can they bring during the journey. You know, for me, because this is like, we're 2 years away, literally this week, from kicking off a FIFA World Cup in our own country. And this is the greatest rehearsal for that. Yes, there's Nations League finals, and hopefully they're in it. Yes, there's Gold Cups, and they're all very important barometers in judging this team and subsequently Jesse Marsh. Of course they're big moments, but they're not significant enough like a Copa America. So this is it. You know, it will likely be a 26-man squad for the FIFA World Cup in 2 years. It's not that far away, by the way. It really isn't. And so I look at the other players, the fringe players. What are they bringing? How are they building the team up? Whether you're a younger player like a Russell Rowe, or whether you're in a more experienced, like Schwanier, an experienced player like Osorio, where does Larea fit in? All of that. It's all about collaboration, chemistry, teamwork, for the team, not for yourself. All those things when you build through these tournaments, because there's players who are not going to play. And what do you do in that situation is very important.
Jordan, do you want to build on that?
Just quickly, I'll just say 11 new players, if my math is serving me right, that are going to be on this squad that weren't at the World Cup. and what that means in terms of a big moment and how you're going to step up for your team. This is just going to be a learning curve, right? You're going to play in front of 70,000. You're going to play against arguably the best player that has ever played this game. It's how can you build from these moments to the next 2 years?
Yeah, for me, I think that the first 11, 12, 13, pretty solid.
Yeah.
For Canada, it's beyond that. It's that depth that you speak about, KJ, which provides opportunity.
Right.
There's opportunity for players to step up because the games are going to come quick and fast in this tournament. I mean, games on the 20th, 25th, and 29th against Argentina, then Peru, then Chile down in Orlando. How do you rate their chances of progressing from Group A, Jordan?
Yeah, I think it's tough if everyone's going into this tournament, if your expectation is for Canada to go and make it out of the group. Look, I just want to see a more resolute side. I want to see a little bit of how Canada played against France. They were all together. They said we're going to be hard to break down. I think you can build from that point. Playing in this tournament, KJ, you have World Cup, and then for me, like Copa America or the Euros is right underneath. Like, it's gonna be tough games, tough atmosphere, a lot of learning curve that we just mentioned from players that haven't really been in this environment before. So for me to say I want Canada to go and make it out of the group, that's unrealistic for me. I just want to see a team that is going to live together, die together, and is going to work hard to really get behind the ball and play the type of football.
It's been positioned by some, KJ, that this is a good time to play teams like Peru and Chile. Obviously, Argentina are world champions because these aren't vintage squad. Like Peru was in the World Cup in 2018, very good team. This isn't the Chile, like really top group that came through the decade prior. But these are still battle-tested sides that they're going to be playing. I think it'd be very naive to underestimate what they're going to bring to the table.
Yeah, I don't think as a nation, I certainly hope that we're not underestimating them. I think it's okay as a nation for us to be enthused by the performance against the French, while not mixing that with the fact that Canada should go into any of these games as favourites, if that makes sense. They're certainly not a favourite on Thursday, and Argentina are overwhelming favourites, and the world will expect them to win. And let that happen, and let them be the expectations. That's fine. Enjoy it, see what you can do, and build on it. I think the Peru game is the big one. Because if they don't get anything from that, it kind of could, it has the tendency to go down, and it's a little bit like the air could go out the balloon pretty quickly. That's the opportunity. Chile are better than everyone thinks, I'm telling you. They're not as good as you said. They're not that vintage team from 2014, but they are better than everyone thinks. And what all three bring is high levels of intensity that Canada needs to match, that South American football consistently brings. And Canada are going to struggle to get that way if they consistently don't play that level that they're going to do. They're not going to get what they need. So, look, they're marvelous opportunities to improve and to move forward. And as I said, they're going to play better teams here than I think they're going to play in 2 years in the World Cup.
And they have experience playing against one another as well, something that Canada doesn't have. Whether it's stylistically, however you want to frame it, Canada's at a little bit of a disadvantage heading into this one. Christian Jack is going to be going down and covering Canada over the course of the group stage at Copa America. You're making your way to Atlanta tomorrow, where Lionel Messi and Argentina awaits, where it's going to be a little bit of a circus, because what we know about America and this tournament, they all love Lionel Messi, and with good reason. But this Messi mania has taken things to another level. But it's not just Messi they're playing a very good Argentina side to open the tournament, which is always a significant game as well.
Yes.
You've covered these before, KJ. What are Canada walking into on Thursday night?
Well, I don't think they'll be aware of what they're going to walk into until they experience it, because they've never had that opportunity. And I think opportunity is the word. What a moment you get to go and play these world-class players, the World Cup champions, the expectations to go out there and defend Copa America, to play in one of the greatest stadiums in North America, in a central hub like that, which will be ferocious from the stands. The Argentine fans are some of the greatest in world football. You just get to, I just think you just get to enjoy it and take it on. And look, the other aspect of this, Jordan, is as a player, you can talk about this way more than I can. There's going to be that dark arts area of everything's going to be faster and trying to con the referee, and just what happens in these games and how much emotionally can Canada stay in it and not get disconnected from that emotionally. I think they've got to go in there with a task in mind and not get deterred from it no matter what happens.
And that is the difference. You alluded to it, KJ, between the levels, right? Between the first ranked in the world and 45th or whatever it might be, is you can't take your foot off the gas for a second. Lionel Messi, everyone's going to talk about it. He walks around the pitch a lot and turns it on like that. That is what Canada is up against. You see the final in the World Cup, Argentina against the French. There is just talent and quality all over the pitch. if you take your foot off the gas for a second for Canada, Argentina will punish you. And it's not just Messi. This is an Argentina side that has a lot of depth and quality, and it will just be a joy to watch this game.
They got 10 or 15 minutes a taste of playing against Kylian Mbappe. Messi in a competitive game in what could be his final Copa America. Brace yourselves, Canada. It's going to be a moment. We are covering every kick of Copa America as we break it down on a daily basis. It's Vamos Copa America, Canada at Copa America, presented by Degree. Our preview show for the tournament kicks off on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. The best and worst of the week are coming up next here on Match Night.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display. Not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
This ultimate mouth-watering moment is brought to you by the big, bold, ultimate taste of Ultimate Chicken Hot Dogs. Only from Maple Lodge Farms.
In 5 years, we'll be doing this, but in Japan.
In 5 years, my family will be joining me.
I'll be living in the city.
Not living in the city.
In 5 years, I'll be king of the court.
I'll be playing for Canada.
I'll be playing for Canada.
In 5 years? Where won't I be in 5 years?
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
We're in Kelowna. Of course. Cavalry FC.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
It is best and worst of the week time here on Match Night. Wheeler, Wilson, KJ with you. Halifax Wanderers' Massimo Ferrin scored a penalty this weekend against Forge. The crazy thing is this your stat, KJ? Of course you know this.
I can't take any credit for this.
He actually converted his penalty, and Halifax Wanderers have never missed a penalty in the Canadian Premier League. Is that outrageous?
It's wild. I'm thinking about the penalties that were scored on me when I played. But 31.
KJ, you are a purveyor of
31.
penalties.
That's a remarkable number. I'm not going to lie. That is not small. That's the most penalties ever.
Yes.
By any team on the list.
31.
And they're at 100%. Do you ever get 100% on any test?
No, KJ. No.
Take away a 0.
He's not my 10%er. This guy, come on.
Just saying.
Oh, that's great.
Let's go over to Copa America. Did you see this? Okay, this bothers me. so much. Ronaldinho, like an all-time great, comes out with this post on Instagram that he came out saying he was done supporting Brazil because the way they played was boring and they didn't have star players and there was nothing enjoyable about it, so he was done. It turns out this was a marketing campaign by some kind of deodorant that's going up against negative sentiment and abuse on social media. But he put it on social media, and it garnered what? Abuse and a negative response. Is the deodorant company that he did this for, is it called Irony? Because that's the only thing that makes sense here.
Stinks.
It stinks. Unbelievable.
That's a strange one, to be fair.
Take a pass.
Yeah, it is.
Makes me not want to use deodorant. I'm an antiperspirant guy now.
Whenever these guys come out like this in storylines and they've not, like, I don't know, it may be selfish of us, but we want to remember Ronaldinho for what he was on the field, and he can't do that anymore. So it's like they're consistently in these other stories, and I just want to imagine him on the field again.
Yeah. Shot cross. Beating David Seaman, 2002.
Oh, for me, it's
Always.
Barcelona, and it's like
all of that toe poke.
Yeah.
It's Chelsea.
The shot cross is just like burned in my brain.
I took that out of my memory.
Let's talk Euros. We're going to be speaking more about Euros a little bit later on. How about this guy? This fan from Scotland to raise money for charity for mental health walked from Hampton Park in Glasgow to Munich, which was 1,000 miles for the opening match of Scotland and Germany.
Wow.
And this has to be everything to do with the Proclaimers. Like, a wonderful initiative, but it's, and I would walk 500 miles.
Is that playing in his AirPods?
That would be the thing. That would be in my head the entire thing.
On repeat.
And by the way, I'm like, I'm almost there.
By the way, he looks in good shape, by the way.
Great shape.
Yeah, but he didn't have any clothes, and they were soaking the ones he had.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. And then he got to enjoy a 5-1 drubbing at the hands of Germany. Well done for charity.
Hopefully he didn't have to walk home.
Yes. No. By the way, the walking on water part of the equation here, that needs to be explained. Well done. A great initiative, and we just want to give a shout out to the Proclaimers. And lastly, which is the better managerial decision that was made in the Premier League this week? Manchester United deciding to stick with Erik ten Hag for at least another year. He's going to be handed a new contract as well. Or Brighton hiring a 31-year-old manager and Fabian Hürzeler, who was only 9 years old when James Milner made his Premier League debut. KJ, the better decision is?
Well, Hürzeler's the real deal, the way he got St. Pauli playing. So the better decision is Ten Hag, because it means Man United will still be mediocre.
How do you feel about it?
Me?
Yeah, Ten Hag's your guy.
Ten Hag in. If you are new ownership right now, that's the least of your worries. You have so much more to do. And when a new ownership comes in, you say that managerial change for a little bit down the road to see how next season plays out. You don't make it now. I think it's a smart decision.
Fair enough.
Too much change, too
Just waiting for Pochettino,
You're
no,
back
at some
in
point?
Maybe. I love how Ten Hag came out and said, I understand they talked to Thomas Tuchel, but they decided to go with the best manager. So, which is himself. If it's an accurate quote, it's a brilliant response.
I love that.
The Euros are up and running. We'll discuss what we've seen so far and what may lay ahead as match night rolls on right here on One Soccer.
Tony Bet.
At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with
Tony Bet.
Hey, so Mom's thing's coming up. Should we book flights?
Let's do it.
We could go a day early.
Or the later one?
With over 500 flights daily, we have a flight for that.
Do we really have any choice at all?
Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Which do you choose?
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
How do you choose?
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
me to stop?
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Canadian soccer fans, we're different. We cheer on the Reds while cheering out our motherlands and each other's lands. Soccer is in our hearts. Our roots are on display. Not to divide, but to unite. Because to us, soccer's more than just a game. It's who we are. From coast to coast to coast, it connects us all. Cheers to us. Cheers to the game.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
This is the final score presented by TonyBet. Here's a reminder of how things finished up this weekend in the Canadian Premier League. Remember, you can win $100,000 or a trip to the 2024 Canadian Premier League final by playing TonyBet's CPL Predictor. Visit predictor.canpl.ca for more info. It's the best time of the year, and I feel like summer's finally hit. Because the weather has turned and a major footballing tournament is being played. The Euros kicked off on Friday in Germany, and it just seems like all is right in the world. Here are the results so far. Everything's been very enjoyable, by the way, notwithstanding, you know, when people that maybe don't follow this tournament on a regular basis call it Euro Cup. It's not the Euro Cup.
So annoying.
Just call it the Euros. Like, it's...
Euros.
Bothers me.
European Championship. By the way, those scores, did you know? All 7 games had a goal in the first 30 minutes. That's the first time ever in Euro history.
Look at that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
The first 5 games all went over. Both teams to score in all but 2 of the games thus far. And the lowest score...
That sounds like a gambler.
It's a TonyBet segment, my friend. So, and everything was up good until England-Serbia. And Jude Bellingham with the goal, by the way, but in game, a very few chances. Is there a result for you, Jordan, of the bunch so far that stands out more than the rest?
Yeah, it's got to be Spain. I didn't think Spain against Croatia 3-0 would go and have such a strong performance, such a strong start. I mean, Croatia, were they poor on the day? I don't even think they were poor. I just think Spain was that good. 3-0, never picked that on the cards, KJ.
KJ?
Most impressive for me was Germany. Yeah. Watching them, I picked them to start to win. And it makes me think maybe they won't now, only because I think like sometimes I don't like teams that peak way too early. Yeah. It reminded me of 2006 World Cup in Germany, which I had a pleasure of going to watch when they started the tournament. I don't know if you remember, they got 4 the first game against Costa Rica, and the entire country just wrapped their arms around the World Cup, and then they did the same. There's been a lot of like trepidation back in Germany about this tournament, this team. Are they hitting at the right time? But watching, you know, Musiala and Wirtz combined with Havertz, and then, you know, the legend himself, Kroos in midfield, and you know, they just, I mean, 10 men in the second half. It wasn't easy for Scotland, but they took them apart.
Wirtz, Havertz, I mean, Musiala in attack, they're going to be a problem. And I just think that Nagelsmann's a really good manager as well. So I don't think they're going to win it. Portugal's still my pick, but certainly a message was sent. And Lamine Yamal, like, teenager for Spain, like, this Spanish side, KJ, we saw some brilliant ones over the course of the last 15 years or so. It's a very different looking team, a team that can play direct, and a lot of young players getting a chance in the Spanish side.
Yeah, that's the difference, and I think that's the biggest surprise to me is the way they took the way they took apart Croatia. Croatia are clearly on the wrong end of the climb, and they're not the same team. They're still a great team to watch, and it's pleasure to still watch the magician Modric in midfield. But to see Spain be so clinical, you know, this is the first time they've ever scored 3 goals in the first half. Even the great Spain teams of 2008 and 2012, they wouldn't score goals like this team has scored goals so far. I know Spain started the World Cup like that when they dismantled Costa Rica 7-0, so we'll see. And by the way, they've got a good game to come in Italy, so that'll be really interesting. But just the way they're scoring right now has certainly allowed some people to think Spain can win it.
Any surprises for you, Jordan, so far? Pretty chalk, really. Yeah. Like Denmark drew.
I think Spain coming out of the gate and just beating Croatia that way is a big shock.
convincingly.
I mean, I need to talk about real quick. The boy's 16. Like, I think for me, I know we see his quality on Barcelona, but that was also a shock as well. Just the confidence that he always plays with. He's 16 years old. This guy's tearing up on the right side. That left foot is sweet. And we're just going to see him from years to come. I mean, but there hasn't been any big shocks in terms of scores so far.
Players, I just want to share the player that caught my eye. Christian Eriksen scoring a goal today for Denmark. The first game of the last Euros, he underwent cardiac arrest. Like, the fact that you go from one extreme, what happened in that terrifying incident back in 2021, to where he is today, scoring a goal, that is special stuff that only sport provides you, those sorts of the storylines. So a wonderful moment for Eriksen. In terms of players, KJ, is there a player that stood out to you?
I'll go with Barella. I think for me, Italy have a bit of a special tendency. They look like a team that is obviously emotionally connected to this tournament for a reason. They're the holders. I know that it hurts them, particularly their really disappointing showings in World Cups lately. I don't think they're going to win the tournament, but they need a genuine world-class player to carry them through in some of these games. And for me, he's their best player. Barella.
Jordan?
There's a couple. I mean, I'm going to say my boy Jude as well, Bellingham, playing in that midfield, just the way that he can basically do a 6 and an 8 and a 10 role. Yeah. He needs to be the guy for England, but again, he's 20 years old. It's the biggest stage, European football, to go for your national team. And he stepped up once again. So for me, it's him. And then I'll also maybe even say, didn't see the full match, but seeing Saka as well on the right, I think that's where he belongs. He can have a good tournament. England have something there.
Well, Jude Bellingham, he's 21 years of age. This is his third major tournament, and he scores a goal. I mean, this is a player that's going to be in the running for the Ballon d'Or. And so he's playing for his country right now, but there's an individual accolade that could be at the end of this journey as well. What a way to kick off his tournament for England as well. What about upcoming games? Like, for me, the game that I want to see is tomorrow. It's Austria and France, because this Austrian side under Ralf Rangnick, they're better than the sum of their parts. The way that they play and put pressure on, I think they can actually challenge France, as good as France are, in this game, which could turn out to be a pretty big game. I mean, Poland without Lewandowski, I think they're a little bit of a sitting duck in this group, but the Netherlands will be a tough team to play against as well, KJ.
Yeah, I saw that today, and the Dutch found other gears. And again, what's been tendency for me in these tournaments so far is when teams have started to put pressure on them, they've found goals. Yeah. You know, and I just want to say that, like, you know, it's been said for many, many writers and many great people who have told storylines around this sport for a long time, and I agree with them, that probably about 10 to 15 years ago, the club game overtook the international game from a level of play, standard tactics, coaching, all of that, because they're together. But this is when the sport that we love the most is at its best, the most beautiful. When you can see full stadiums, and it's back after COVID, now after the Euros, when it's all in the same country, people have traveled there, the mighty anthems are played, and the club game with all its money and all its glory and all its coaches and all the great players and great teams, that can never replicate what you do in the international game. And that's what you said about the summer tournament. So I just wanted to say that there for sure. And there's always shocks. And we haven't really had shocks yet, but there's going to be some.
Yeah, they're coming.
Because some of these groups are much more wide open than maybe some of the groups that we saw here out of the gates.
Yeah, I mean, matches I'm looking forward to, Denmark versus England. I think that's going to be a test for England. I mean, Denmark in qualifying, but just when they play even in friendlies, always give England a bit of a run. Spain versus Italy. Excited for that one. And then when the Netherlands and France play each other as well. I know recently we just got to see them when they played against Canada, but there's something in it for both teams in that match. I think the Netherlands could surprise France a little bit in that one.
KJ, you mentioned it about the goals that are being scored early in games. I mean, I mentioned the totals as well. It seems like they picked up where some of the Premier League, for example, like record-setting number of goals that were scored in the game. Do you think there's been that much of a shift that now this tournament and maybe even Copa America, when it plays out, are going to be much more high-scoring than they typically are? Because over 7 games, usually the teams that go to win it concede like 4 or 5 goals. That might not be the case this time around.
It's been slowly shifting over the last few years, where the goals per game at international level have been going up as well, to a little bit closer to the club game. You have to remember the club season ended very late, and a lot of these squads have not had a lot of preparation time. Even their last quote-unquote warm-up game before, they couldn't always play their best players either. And the key for me in tournaments is always set pieces and headed goals. And they go up dramatically, way more than they even do in club games. Set pieces and headed goals are huge in tournaments, and we've seen them. So should be good. The Spain-Italy one, that'll be a great game. I just think the French, if they don't win tomorrow, the pressure will be on them automatically against the Dutch. Often the order of the games and your opponents who you play in these tournaments is crucial.
Very true.
Yeah, it's been a bright start. And honestly, like waking up in the morning and looking forward to watching football as soon as you wake, it's a really good habit to go in and follow for a very short period of time. So take advantage, full advantage of it now. This is a big month of football, and we got it covered, all of it, right here on Match Night and right here on One Soccer. Match week 10 in the books in the Canadian Premier League, and shout out to the city of Kelowna, British Columbia. They showed up, they showed out. It's a very difficult weather conditions today. And the enjoyable was a really compelling match. Lots of chances both ways, but no goals to speak of. It's a 0-0 draw between Vancouver FC and Cavalry. On behalf of Jordan and KJ, I'm Wheels. This has been Match Night in your home for Canadian soccer, a little place we like to call One Soccer.
Well, a very pleasant good evening. It is AB.